Welcome back to another episode of the Casey Campbell Podcast. Casey Campbell with you, of course. We are pleased to be joined by the head baseball coach at Minnesota, John Anderson. How's it going?
Doing fine, Casey. How about yourself? You look like you're all bundled up there.
Yeah, I mean, we're in Michigan. I mean, it's obviously it's nothing like where you're at. So it's yeah. So it's
Yep, we're having a real winter here. So.
Oh yeah. So let's talk about, obviously last season was last season. Obviously that's very, very unlike Minnesota baseball to have the year that they did, but really coming into this year, lots of new guys on your team.
Yeah, we have. We brought in 15 new players into our roster, and I think some of it was driven by the pandemic and the roster issues that everybody had in college baseball, and obviously trying to improve our overall talent throughout the roster. I think that was all part of it. We had a big freshman class with 10 players and brought in 5 transfers into our program, and of course have a nucleus of returning players. So it's a different looking roster. It's a different group, and I'm pleased with how well the new players have been blended into our team and culture, and some of the things that I've witnessed here through the fall and winter in terms of the connection the players have and the work they put in together. And to me, it looks more normal, more like it should look like. We had a normal fall. I think the part that was really missing for us over the last few years was just the consistency of being able to get into the weight room and really develop their bodies and be able to prepare them for a 56 game schedule. And I think our players, our program's been noted for player development. We don't get a lot of finished products here. A lot of kids from the Sun Belt don't want to come and shovel the snow. So we have to do a good job in player development. I think we've had an opportunity to do that here. The kids were able to play a summer baseball and get back into consistent player development routines. And I think I've noticed the difference in terms of the bodies of our players, the athleticism, and we're physically in good shape from an injury standpoint. So I think it's all related to just being able to get into consistent programming. It's very, very important, and as you prepare for a season.
So going into, you mentioned a lot of people coming back, a lot of people returning, a lot of people coming into the program. Kind of take us around the diamond where everyone's at. Talk about the players you got.
Well, I think when you look at our roster, first and foremost, I think we have to replace everybody but Ronnie Sweeney and Chase Stanky, our catcher, and Ronnie Sweeney, our first baseman in the infield. We had multiple guys play shortstop last year. Obviously, Drew Stahl's back at that position. Noah Berghammer has played there some. We brought in the transfer Joe Hauser from Arizona State. That's getting an opportunity to get to earn some playing time there and hopefully improve our success at that position. And a freshman came in Brady Council that I think has done a lot of great work here in the fall and has put on about 25 pounds in the weight room and seems to improve. So there's great competition going on at that position, and it'll be interesting to see how that gets sorted out as we go forward. But I feel better about where we are there in terms of the quality of play we should be able to get there. It's a critical position, the middle infield. Austin Merrill is back, and Drew Stahl has played over at second base as well. Austin played some last year around Zach Robbie, both as a DH. He played in left field, played a little second base. So I've been happy with Austin's development. We turned him into a switch hitter last year, and from a natural right-handed hitter to a switch hitter, his left-handed hitting has come a long, long way since last year. So I'm pleased with the options we have in the middle infield. I think that's going to be critical. As we develop our team and level of success we can have. Obviously, you got to be strong up the middle, and I feel like we've made some progress there. With Jack Wassel graduating, we have a third base position that's open. Kyle Bork has been in the program this is his third year. He's hardly played because of the pandemic, but I like where he's at as well. Freshman, Jake Perry is over there at that position as well. I think we'll have options for Jack Kelly, who's also a catcher and played in the outfield for us at that position as well. But, I think at this point, I'm pleased with what's happening there. And I think we're going to find out in the first 15 or 20 games of the season how those positions are going to sort out. It's always been the case in our program, but I'm happy. Jack Kelly's done a nice job behind home plate. Riley Swenson, who's a senior, has hardly played. Obviously, he's going to be a factor back there and potentially a right-handed hitter in the outfield. So, we're moving people around. We're trying to create some multiple defensive positions for people that give us flexibility in our lineup. But, I'm happy with kind of where we are there in terms of our development that I've seen through the fall and here in the early winter. And I think in the outfield, we have a little more experience out there with, Brett Bateman being back in center field and Easton Bertrand, who's a fifth-year guy who's played in all three outfield positions. Andrew Wilhite is back in left field. Otto Grimm, who has done a great job of just reauthoring his body and getting in better physical condition, is really been impressive at the plate in our workouts here in the fall and winter. And so we do have some options there in the outfield as well. And I think I'm happy with the development. Like I said, Jack Kelly can go out there and play as well. So we do have some options. We have some freshmen that they're feeling their way through. And I think it's too early to tell. I think the most impressive freshman to date and as a position player, I think Jake Perry has handled himself well at home plate with the bat. And also played third base. He played first base. He played in left field in the fall. But I think he's been the most impressive hitter that I've seen so far in our freshman class that may be ready to help us as a freshman. And we'll see how the others develop.
Talk about your pitching staff for a second. Where are we at in terms of that?
Well, that's been a big, I think, a piece of what we've tried to overhaul here. What I've seen so far, the transfers we brought in, I think they're all going to be able to help us. They're older, they're mature, they've pitched at the Division I level, they've had success at the Division I level. So I think we're going to see some pieces there that are going to help our program in 2022. Aiden Maldonado, obviously, I think is reauthored. He had some injuries last year at Illinois and through some changes that they're making to the arm. I think he's reauthored his arm and been very impressive, both in terms of three-pitch mix and velocity and his stuff this fall and winter. And I think he's kind of back to what we saw when he was at Illinois his first few years there. He's healthy. So I think he has a chance to help us significantly. I see him being in our, top four guys on the mound, probably what I've seen in practice so far. We'll see how we get into game competition, how that works out. Richie Hollis came from Omaha. And he was one of the better pitchers in the Summit League last year. And he's a sinker slider, split finger guy that throws strikes. He's going to repeat his delivery, and there's going to be a spot for him that I think he can help us on the mound as well, based on what I've seen there. Of course, you have Sam Arlen back and Jack Lifford back, two guys that I think we feel have great promise. Sam was on his way to being a very strong Friday starter for us in the league until he got hurt last year, and we shut him down, and we took our time in bringing him back just based on the season we were having, and wanted to make sure that we didn't try to rush him back. So I think you're going to see Sam's going to be on the front end of that rotation as well. Lifford is a left-hander, has pitched in the league and pitched with success. So I think he's another person that you kind of have to keep your eye on. But and I think the guy that nobody really talks about is George Clausen. He had Tommy John surgery last February. He was in the futures game, high school futures game out of high school, and has a tremendous arm. And he had Tommy John surgery last March, and he just pitched the hitters for the first time. 15 pitches last weekend, and he was 96, 97. Has a quick arm. He's not going to be to a full pitch count probably till we get to the Big Ten season, but he was a guy that we had high hopes for as a freshman last year that didn't pitch, and he's healthy and seems to be on his way back to what we saw when we recruited him and early in his career in Minnesota until he got hurt. And I think you're gonna hear a lot about George as our season goes along if he can stay healthy. And so far we haven't had any hiccups in his return to throw since he's had surgery. So I'm really encouraged about that. Will Sim joined us from Iowa, and he's another guy that I think has shown us in fall and winter here that he's going to be one of our top 6 guys on our staff as well. So I've been pleased with him as well. And Brandon Dowman's another transfer that came in here and from St. Louis and has done some good things here in the fall. So he's going to add some depth to our staff. And JP Massey's in an entirely different place than he was a year ago. I've been just really impressed with what I've seen so far and out of him in terms of him reauthoring kind of the JP Massey we saw in 2020. And, I think he's back on track, and I think he's going to be a different guy for us on the mound than we saw last year in 2021. I think the guy that we thought was coming along. And so I think there's some depth in that pitching staff as well, and both in terms of the returners that have improved and I've seen in fall and some numbers there in the freshman class. I think there's some guys that can help us as well. Seth Clausen, I think, is going to be able to help us on the mound as a freshman this year. He's also a position player, and we'll play some in the infield potentially here. We'll see how he develops as the game competition gets underway. But, there's Tom Squirrel came back. He's a 6-year guy. He's a left-handed pitcher. And Noah DeLuga, who got baptized as a freshman last year, didn't have a good year last year on the mound, but he's changed, made some changes in his arm slot and found some things and has been much improved from a year ago from what I've seen in practice. So there's some numbers. I think we have some depth in our staff, and you got Josh Culliver that's back as a 5th-year senior that has shown signs of success in our league. So I think when you look through the roster right now, Trent Schobel has pitched much better than he did a year ago, and he's a development guy that's just starting to hit his stride. And so I think there's some depth in that pitching staff. Sam Mellick's another freshman, has got a really good arm. So we're really, pleased with where we are on the mound. We're healthy for the most part, and the guys have performed in practice. It's looked more normal, and we'll see as we continue to develop and get into the season what that translates into. But I think there's some talent and some depth in the pitching roster, and I feel good about where we're at, and we'll figure out roles and things as we go along here. As I said in the first 15 or 20 games, but I really feel like there's lots of options on the mound, and both in terms of talent and depth and options as we go forward.
Let's talk about conference play for a second. Of course, we're playing non-conference games. First time we've done that in a while. What's that like to have that back, and where do you think the conference is at?
Well, I think, yes, it's I'm happy for our players. Number one, that they're going to be able to play a normal schedule at this point and have some non-conference games. I think that's really critical to players' development, both the players that are going to play significant roles as well as the players that are trying to gain some experience and get their feet on the ground in Division I baseball. So I think it's critical that we're going to play some non-conference games as we prepare for the conference season. I think it's going to be critical, and both in terms of the development of our team. And I think that's one of the things I noticed last year. You played all these 3 and 4 game series on the weekend. You had no midweek games, and I think somebody cut off the tracks and lost some confidence. You never had an opportunity to put them back into situations in non-conference games where maybe you could help them find their way again, get their confidence back, and perform at a little higher level. It just seemed like you were jumping in, and the league last year was very strong and very deep and talented. And there were some players that just they probably needed to be able to grow and develop and at different levels of competition to kind of build their confidence and find their way into Division I baseball. That didn't happen. So I think it's going to have a big impact on us as we develop not only the older players in our program, but the younger players as well, through the non-conference schedule where you get opportunities to do some of those things, especially in the pitching staff. The second half of your staff really gets a chance to develop there. And you find some surprises as you go along that can help you in the league as you get deeper into the league and deeper into the season in the league. As far as the conference, I'll be honest with you, with all the roster changes in the last couple of years and trying to keep track of who's back and who's gone and what year in school they are, I haven't dug deep into the league, to be perfectly honest with you. My focus has been entirely on our own team and trying to find our way. And, we just got something from the Big Ten about the top 6 teams. And first time I really thought about that. And I haven't dug deep there. And there's no reason to dug. We got our own challenges. We got to find our own way here. I'm trying to focus my attention on Minnesota and our players and trying to get ready for our first game against Florida Atlantic and get through the first, 15 or 20 games. And we'll take a look at the conference, and But as I've seen in recent years, I've been in the league a long time. I think the conference top to bottom. There's no easy games anymore. Everybody's got somebody. I don't think you can predict who the top team in the conference is right now. At least I don't think I can. But all I know is every weekend, everybody's got somebody, and the pitching depth in the league is dramatically improved, and the talent and rosters top to bottom of the league have improved. And all I know is you're going to get in the league and you're going to be facing quality competition every weekend. So you got to stay healthy, number one, and you got to be able to perform consistently over a 24-game schedule to finish in the top of the league. And that's a challenge because our league is strong, top to bottom, strongest I've ever seen in my 40-year career. I think that's a credit to the coaches that are in the league, the commitments that each school has made in terms of improving their baseball programs and the quality of play in the Big Ten. And I think we're at a level here that we have, and that I've never seen in my career in terms of the talent and the level of play in our league is it's very strong. And I think it plays out. And so it's going to be a dogfight every weekend in our league. And I think you have to stay healthy, number one, and get your best people out there as often as you can in order to have a chance to finish in the top part of the league.
Yeah, for sure. So what do you guys really kind of have to do to get, over the hump, get last year behind you guys? What do you have to do to really kind of perform this year? Because with the tournament's back, and what's it going to be like trying to get there? What do you want to see out of this team, really out of it?
Well, I think first and foremost, we got to throw strikes. We got to throw the ball over the plate. Eliminate the freebies. I think that was a big part of last year on the mound. There were just too many freebies, too many walks, too many at-batters, too many wild pitches. I think that's got to change. You're not going to be competitive at the Division I level unless you can compete on the mound, and you can perform on the mound, and you can throw strikes and execute some pitches, early in the count, and start there. And then we got to play defense. And I think we have a competitive defense out there, and that's been the staple of our program historically. Throw strikes and play defense, make plays. Go back to 18. That team played tremendous defensive team. We caught everything on defense, and we had a solid pitching staff. But I think people lose sight of the fact that when you go back and study that year, the defensive plays and the balls that we caught on defense and the plays that we made contributed a great deal to the success of that pitching staff, and people lose sight of that. So again, we got to replace 3 infield positions. So critical. We got to play defense. Got to catch the ball. Hit the freebies, errors, walks. Hit batters. That's what I'm looking for. I think we'll be able to eventually put together a lineup here that's going to be able to produce some offense. I like what I see, and the Chase Stankies and the Ronnie Sweeneys. I played a lot of baseball. The Jack Kellys. Easton Bertrand, Will Height. I think there's a nucleus of players there that have enough experience now that I think we can build a lineup, and then we'll find some pieces around that. Again, it's going to come back to how well we can pitch and how well we can play defense. And if we can do those 2 things, then I think we can have a more normal Minnesota year. But those have been our staples historically. I've always felt that they have to be your staples, and I think we'll be able to be competitive against anybody. So if we can do those 2 things, and what I've seen so far, I'm encouraged. I think we're headed in the right direction. But when the bright lights come on, the scoreboard comes on, you get game competition, we'll see how we handle that environment and take that forward. I think we learned a lot last year. We talked about it as a team. What can we learn from last year? What can we take from last year so we can prevent some of the things that happened last year not to happen again? I think we just try to use last year as for information, things we can take forward that we want to do better and be better at, whether it's physical, whether it's emotional, whether it relates to our culture and our chemistry, all those things. And last year's last year. So we'll take what we can to help us moving forward. But this is a new team. It's a new year, whole different player development scenario we've had. And so I'm confident that we're going to see a Minnesota baseball team that looks more like it's supposed to.
All right. Well, Coach, thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to talk with us. Good luck this season.
All right, Casey, thanks all you do for Big Ten baseball and your support, and we appreciate it.